Good morning, everyone, to another episode of the Country Club Leaders Podcast. Today, we're honored to have Vinnie Grillo. He's the part owner of the Poinciana Golf Club in Lake Worth, Florida. Welcome, Vinnie.
Thanks, Leo. Good to be here.
Glad having you. And it's interesting, for about 20 years, I owned a condo less than a mile away from Poinciana, and I've never been on the golf course. I always wanted to stop by, and I just never did.
Oh, if you get down here again, you gotta check it out. We've done a lot of improvements.
I will. I'm interested to see it. So I was reading your biography on LinkedIn, and it's very interesting. You didn't take the normal route for a golf professional, from what I can see. But let's walk us back to the first time you started playing golf, and the first time you got interested in the golf business, and we'll work that all the way up till today. So give us your first memories of hitting a golf ball.
Okay. Well, my father was a golf professional, and he started he started back in the 40s at Wacky Gill Country Club. He was a caddy when he was like 13, 14 years old, in the mid 40s.
Wow.
So he worked there he caddied all his way up until he became the assistant there. And he was the assistant there in the mid 50s to late 50s. And he worked under a guy named Herman Barron, who was a big time pro back then. And he did well there, and he moved around. He went there. Then I think he was at Hampshire, and he finished up at Birchwood Country Club in Westport. He was the assistant there. But all through this time, while he was working, he also worked in New York City in the winter times at the New York Athletic Club. So he was a hustler. I mean, my father, he had to provide. He had 4 kids at this point in the late 60s. And he had to provide for 4 people, for us. And at the time, my grandmother had lived with us, and my mother and father. So there were 6 of us there. So 7 of us. So we really had to, hustle to make ends meet. And he did. He did. He worked hard. And even back then, on. Oh yeah, definitely. And even back then, in the late 50s, early 60s, when a head pro's job opened up, it wasn't easy to get. I mean, it's like today, it's really hard. But even back then, he'd go for head. He went for a lot of positions, to try to be a head pro, and it took him, it'd be 30 or 40 guys. He went to dozens of interviews, never got the job, and then finally, in 1969, a job opened up in Connecticut, in Norwalk, at Oak Hills Park Golf Course. So my father applied, and he ended up getting the job. And he got his first head pro's job, and he was 37 years old. And it was a big, exciting time for the Grillos. And that's where I started. So I was 8 years old in 69. And we went up there. I would go with my father. And we were living in Purchase at the time, in a beautiful area, right between Century and Old Oaks. We had my father. Imagine he was an assistant pro, and he could afford to buy a house in Westchester County back in the early 60s, which is, today, I don't think that's possible.
Forget about it, right?
Yeah. But, back then times were different. So 69, we start, and, I started hitting golf balls there, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. Was I good at it? No, not that good. But I got along, and I was fooling around with it. And at the time, he was giving lessons, and my grandmother was working there in the pro shop back then, because my mother had 3 other kids at home, and she was with the kids at home. So my grandmother said to my father, "Why don't you put the kid to work? Let him do some work." I was only 8 years old. So he said, "All right." So he puts me out on the driving range to pick up shag balls. I'm the shagger, and he's giving lessons. And most of the lessons he was giving them to were, women and older people, and they were beginners. And I would go out on the driving range there, stand out there, and with a baseball glove and try. And I wasn't too far. The lessons he was giving, I was fairly close to. I could listen to what he was saying, because I was right there, and he worked under a guy named Ernest Jones, who was a very famous
Right,
teacher.
right,
Yeah, and he worked with Ernest Jones for years, and he was a disciple of Ernest Jones. So and I kind of was about swinging the club head, feeling the club head, uh, one timing rhythm. It was simple, very simple what he was teaching, and it worked really
right,
well. I watched these people, and they would do quite well at it. So I was getting
right.
a dollar.
Just to cut you off for a second, Vinny, for those that don't know, Ernest Jones is a legend in
Oh
the golf
yeah,
instruction field.
yeah, he really was. So
Yeah,
I
so you
get out. Yeah, I get out there and I'm doing lessons. Now, I like the money. Do I like the job? Not really, but he's giving me $1 a lesson. And back then, he was only getting $8 a lesson. And $1 went to me and $7 went to him. So I liked it, and I was getting $1 a lesson. So I worked all summer and I made about 200 bucks. And, for an 8-year-old, that's pretty good. So I managed to buy a bicycle. I bought a bicycle. I'm like, wow, this is great. And I stayed there. I stayed on the lesson tee for about 3 years. I was about 11 or 12. And then after that, you're growing up, you kind of get tired of it. And I was like, oh boy, I don't really want to do it anymore. But I was making good money. Back then I probably had $1,000 saved up, maybe even a little more. And I said, I got to buy a car one day. So we get on, we're moving on. And one day he's out playing in a tournament. My grandmother's there. And I say, oh, Grandma, give me the key to the golf cart. So she gives me the key and I start driving. And I drove it pretty well. He didn't want me to drive him. I was too young. I was 12. But I drove him and I got good at it. And he used to go out and play and I used to practice. And then one day he saw me driving and he says, oh, what are you doing? And my grandma says, oh, he could do it. I move up to golf carts now. And I'm okay. So now I'm working golf carts, playing a little golf, enjoying it. And again, I'm only 13, 14 now. And all my friends, nobody's really working. And if they are, they're working not on a golf course. They're all envious. Oh my God, Vinny's working on a golf course. So I get going there and I'm doing fine. And now we get into later years, I'm 17, 18, and I'm not a good student. I didn't like school. I wasn't good at it. I wasn't college material. I got on the golf team, no problem, the high school golf team. I was good there. But, I wasn't like a player where I was going to go far with golf. And golf really never got into my mind. But my parents were like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was
right, right.
yeah, they're pounding me. You got to go to college. And I said, I wasn't college material. But my other siblings were. They were very smart. They did good in school. I don't know, just didn't click with me. So I graduate high school. I'm doing carts. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? So, and my parents, I'm taking some community college classes at this point.
Can I cut you off 1 second, Vinny?
Sure, yeah.
Your grandmother sounds like a great lady.
Oh, she was the best. She was the best. She really got me. She controlled she was the one that got me really to work at it and got me a job with he would have never, I don't think he would have did it, at that young age. And I miss her to this day. And I think about her all the time, but it was really wonderful growing up with her my whole life.
And that was your father's mother?
No, my mother's mother. It was my
Okay,
mother's.
okay.
Yeah. So it was really wonderful. And it was great what she did for me. So now I'm 18 years old and now I'm thinking to myself, wow, what do I got to do? What am I going to do in my life? I'm making about 150 bucks a week. It's really, and I got my friends are all going off to college, and some of the guys on the golf team that I played with, they were a couple of years older than me, and they were off in college and playing. So when I'm 18, 1979, there's a restaurant at the golf course, and there's this guy up there. His name is Dominic. He opens up the restaurant, and the restaurant, it's been there for 10 years. It hasn't been successful. And this guy, Dominic, is working his butt off. He's really working hard. And I go up there for lunch and he'd see me and we talk and I'd help him out a little because I knew he was in a bind. He was going through help left and right. So one day he says to me, hey, Vinny, why don't you work for me? And I said, wow. I said, I didn't think of that. He goes, what does your father pay you? I said, I'm making about 150 bucks. I said, Don, I'm making about 150 bucks a week. He goes, I'll pay you 300 bucks a week plus tips. He goes, you make like 500 bucks a week. I said, you kidding me? He goes, no. So I went down. I said to my father, the restaurant was up the hill 100 yards away. I said, Dad, I hate to tell you this, but I got to work for Dominic. He's going to, and they weren't happy. My parents were not happy, but they didn't really let me know. They were like, well, you know what? You're a man. You do what you want, but you're still going to community college. Yeah. So I'm taking a couple of classes. So I move up the hill. So now it's 79. I start working with Dominic, and he puts me in as the bartender, and I'm having a great time. Okay. Now, this guy, Dominic, he had been a English teacher at the high school, not the high school I went to, but another high school in town. And he saw the handwriting on the wall. He wasn't making it with the golfers. So he was, and at this time, the drinking age was 21. No, I'm sorry, the drinking age was 18. Drinking age was 18 in 1979. So he started catering people. It got out word that Dominic Cochi, who was the English teacher at high school, opened up a bar. So all of a sudden, he's getting a very young crowd. Okay, not during the day, but at night. So
Right.
So I'm working this bar, and now he's packed, and I'm the bartender with two barmaids. There's three of us, but I'm in the middle there, and he's got beautiful barmaids, and he loved me, and we were doing great. He was doing great. So I get through 1980, a great time in my life, and then all of a sudden, 1981 comes, the spring of 81, and Dominic comes up to me and he says, Vinnie, I got to let you go. And I was like completely floored and shocked, and like, what did I do? And he was just like, he goes, Vinnie, I'm just going in a different direction. I got to let you go. And I was like, I was shocked. I thought he was joking. And he says, no, I'm sorry, Vinnie, you got to go. I said, so I went home and I was like depressed. I was dejected. And years later, I had found out that my father was a short Italian guy, and a lot of people were scared of him. But my father went up to Dominic on the side and says, listen, you fire my son or I'm going to break your legs. And so Dominic took this very seriously. And I didn't know this at the time. So I go, and now it's the spring of 1981, and I got to start over again. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm really screwed. I got no job. So my father puts down an application on the table. He says, fill this out. You're going to become a PGA. You're going to try to get in the PGA program. So I said, all right, what am I going to do? I signed the letter. I sign the papers. I send them in. Okay, I start my PGA career. So it's 1981. We're moving along. I'm looking at that restaurant, busy as heck, and I'm down here shuffling carts again at my $150 a week. I'm like,
oh boy.
Yeah, I gave up the $600, and I have friends graduating college that were making $18,000, and I'm making $30,000, and I'm thinking how dumb they are going to college, and I'm the smart one. But now I'm stuck. I got no degree, nothing. So I start my career here, and my father goes, "All right, you're going to sit here with me for a few months and watch me teach, and watch me give lessons because you're going to have to do some lessons." So as soon as I got out there, it all came back to me. Remember what he was saying back then. It was like, I was out there 10 years, for years watching him say the same thing. And it worked. I could see the people improving. So I said, okay, I could do this. So at this time in 81, I had met a girl. It was my best friend, Mark. I fell in love with his sister when I was in grammar school. And I always wanted to date her. And she didn't want to know me, but for some reason I asked her out and she said yes. So this was a good thing. Okay. I got a great girlfriend now. I didn't even miss the bar business. I start my teaching career. So I get out there, I start teaching, and the first lesson I gave, I remember. Now at this point, my grandmother had retired because this was 69, this was 81. She was still alive, but she had retired. And my mother was in the pro shop now. Okay. So my mother's in the pro shop, and the first lesson I gave to some woman, so we come in, and I kind of go in the back room, and I hear my mother say, would you like to book another lesson? And she was like, oh, yes, it was great. I loved it. So I said, so I did. I guess I did pretty well. So I did. And from there on, I started teaching, and I did very well with it. I got very good at it. It was easy. It was good money. I liked it. And I was given a lot of lessons now. I started giving a bunch of lessons. So at this time, my girlfriend It's 1981, 82 comes. She wants to get married. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is early. I'm like, well, we gotta wait a little while. But in 1983, I end up getting married, which is very young. I was only 22 and she was 21. Even today, especially today, that's very young. So
Right.
we get married and we have kids right away. Okay, so now
Wow.
I have two kids right away. I got to put pedal to the metal. So I'm out there busting my chops there, teaching, and I was I set up a club repair business in my parents' basement because back then woods were in. You remember you could
Right.
refinish
Right.
wood. Yeah, this was the wood era. It wasn't metal woods weren't around yet. So I said, so I was hustling. I was doing that. I was refinishing woods. I was regripping, reshafting, making clubs. And I got good at it. I got real good at it. I got very good at especially the club refinishing. And a lot of private clubs were sending me their clubs to refinish in the wintertime. So I had something to do in the winter.
Right.
And yeah, things were moving along. Now, the good thing about my father's position, he owned the golf carts for his whole career there. He was there for 32 years. He owned the
Beautiful.
golf cart concession and never paid a dime to the city for the cart rentals.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, so he had a very good job there. He was doing well. I was doing well, but it didn't sit well with some of the city leaders. They felt that when his contract was coming up, which was coming up the end of the 80s in 89, that they wanted the cart revenue, and my father was a good businessman and he knew politics, my father. I didn't know politics like he knew, but I learned about politics down the road, not too many years down the road. So anyway, he managed to somehow get a 10-year extension on his contract in 1989 to the year 2000. Okay, so he was set now. It's 89. He's set to the year 2000. So I'm set now for 11 more years. I'm saying, okay, and I feel
Good
good.
job.
Now, meanwhile, yeah,
Good
meanwhile,
job, Dad. Good job, Dad. By the way, getting that
yeah,
extension.
a 10-year deal with the cart with no rent. I mean, he had to put a new building up, get more carts, stuff like that, but he did that all. So now, and before this, my father had said to me, you really should get more experience. You should go. And he had guys, Nick Roberto at Bruce Park. He wanted me to teach there. There was a guy at Maplemore, Jim Murata. He said, to my father, I would love for your son to teach at my place. But I was like, you know what? Why would I leave? Why would I? I'm going to drive 30 minutes in traffic,
Right.
and I
Right.
got the world right here. Plus, I got 10 more years. To me,
Right.
that's a lifetime. So,
Right.
I'm in my late 20s. So we get moving along and we're moving along. And now come the mid 90s. And now in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I know I'm not going to get, my father's not going to, he's going to be 68 in the year 2000. So I know he has to retire.
Right.
And through the grapevine, we're hearing that, the only way they're going to get at Vinnie Grillo now is Vinnie Grillo Jr. will never get this job. He'll never get the head pro's job at Oak Hills. That's what we're hearing from a lot of, from behind the scenes.
Right.
So, and there was a barber. His name was Ralph Maglise. He was the barber in town, and he had a barber shop, and he played a lot of golf. He had a barber shop right near City Hall, and all the politicians would cut their hair there. And my father had his hair cut there, and they knew Ralph was good friends with my family, and they would tell Ralph, don't expect Vinnie Jr. to get the father's position when he leaves because, they felt like he somehow screwed the city when he got this 10-year deal, but he didn't. It
Right.
went through, it was just all politics. So we move on, and my father goes, Vinnie, just be prepared. I know you want this job, but it's not going to. I said, I know, Dad. I know. So 1996 comes, and back then there was an administrator. His name was Richard Allen. He had said he's going to retire. So this is 96. I still got 4 more years to go. So I really want this position. I want to run the golf course and still be the assistant. So we're good friends with the mayor at this point, very good friends with the mayor. So the mayor would play a lot of golf. And I said to the mayor, look, I'm the right guy for this job. You got to hire me for this job. And he looks at me, he goes, Vinnie, I know you are. I would love to give you the job, but He says, my hands are tied. You know how they feel about your father. I'm not going to have the votes for, even, he was a Republican, even the Republicans, some of the Republicans wanted my father out, you know, so
Right.
he's running the city, but, so I said, no, I understand, Frank. He goes, look, if it was up to me, Vinnie, you'd have the job. And at that time, the job paid $65,000. Okay, it was a $65,000 a year job, which would have been great. So he would come to play golf. I would go see him. You know, I call him up. Hey, can I come see that? You know, yeah, come over. And I said, come on, Frank, give me the job. He says, Vinnie, I would love to, you know, my hand. I said, I know. So one night, I'm in bed, I'm tossing and turning, saying, how am I going to get this job? So I came up with this crazy idea, and I go over, I call him up. I say, I got to come to your office. He says, come over. I got time, 3 o'clock. I go to his office. I said, I'll make you a deal, Frank. He says, what is it? I said, I'll do the job, the 65 for $1 for the year. And he looks at me, he goes, what do you mean? I says, look, I'll do the job. Now, at this point, in the mid-90s, golf was busy, but our golf course was in horrible shape. It was really a bad, greens were terrible, tees were terrible. They weren't, the city, it was run by the city. They were pulling all the money out. They were taking the money out. They were saying that, you know, we were losing money with the benefits and all this, whatever they were. And plus they were saying, well, we don't have the cart revenue. That's why they were trying to blame it back onto my father.
Right.
Okay. So I said, Frank, look, I'll make you the deal. You give me the job for $1, but the $65,000 that you were going to spend on an administrator, I get to keep and put back into the golf course. He says, so he looks at me with a puzzled face, and he didn't want to give me an answer right there. He couldn't give me an answer right there.
That's a good move on your part.
Right. So I said, okay. He goes, let me think about it. So I said, okay, you think about it. So I figure he's got to make a few phone calls. You know, he's got to, he just said, make sure I got this right. You're going to do it for $1. The money has to be spent back into. I said, that's it, Frank. You got it. The next day, he runs down. He lived near the golf course. He was going to City Hall. He runs down to the golf course. He's looking for me. He goes in the pro shop. He sees my father. He says, where's your son? Where's your son? He goes, he's out on the lessons tee. He knew where the lessons tee was. He took plenty of lessons from me. Goes out there. He goes, hey. He looks at me. I turn around. He goes, you got the job. Come see me later today. I said, okay.
Wow.
So I go up to his office. He says, okay, Vinnie, you're all set. I set it up for you. You're getting paid $1 for the year. You got control of your money. Has to be put back in the golf course. These are the rules. Anything over $5,000 has to go out to bid. You know, you have to get purchased. I said, fine, Frank, I'll do that. No, it's not a problem. I said, but so July 1st, we're on a fiscal year. It starts up. I get my job. I'm still working for my father. So I'm not, and I'm doing, and at this point, when I took over, there was a lot of problems up there. By that time, some of the men's club had they were really running the golf course, where they were getting the best tee times, and they were controlling, and people knew this, and people were afraid of certain men's club, not all of them, but certain ones. And I was now the boss, and I was in charge, and I had to make things right. I mean, now so we start up, and the first thing I do, now this is big news in the papers, in the Norwalk Hour, a little local paper, but it was big. It was a big story. I was headlined. Grillo gets the job, $1, $65,000 gets back into the golf course. So I start my position, and the first thing I do, there was a guy there named Henry Luciano that owned a paving company. And he was a good friend of ours. And he was all excited, and he loved the golf course. And I said to him first, I said, Henry, you got to help me out. I need to get some cart path work here. So he said, no problem. So he goes, I had to put it out to bid. And it was how many square feet? It was quite a bit of cart path work. And Henry Luciano said to me, Vinnie, I will definitely be the low bidder because I'm going to do this job for nothing. Practically nothing. He says, I'm practically. So the bids come in. and they all come in about 20,000, and Henry was at 10,000. Same cart path work. So my first thing is $10,000. I get all this cart path work. Okay.
Right.
Place is starting to look good. Now, meanwhile, my sister-in-law is a landscape architect. Okay.
Nice.
So she drew up these beautiful plans for flowers and all this good kind of stuff. And I went to the local nursery, and it was big news in the paper. This was Norwalk, Grillo gets the job, $1. And I go to the nursery, and the guy says to me, Vinnie, I'll give you all the plants it costs. I'll give you all. So I'm buying all the plants it costs. We're making the place really nice. I hire some landscapers to clean out the bed. There's beautiful gardens up there. It was an old estate, the golf course. And it's really looking good. And at this point, the only way to get the word out is through the paper. People are writing letters. Golfers are writing letters to the paper saying what a wonderful job it looks up there, what a wonderful job I'm doing. And, and they say, we're going to write letters for it. I said, yeah, go ahead. Anything you say. And letters are 2 or 3 a day are coming in, what a great job it is. And I'm only on the job 3 months, but you could see a big improvement already.
Right, right.
So now it comes September. I'm only on the job for 3 months. I've used about $25,000. I still got $40,000 left. So I have a commission. I have a board I have to report to, like any golf course. So I report to the board, or the board reports to me. There was an old-time commissioner on there. His name was Carl Bazzone. And he comes in. He was a great guy, good friend of ours. He comes in with a piece of paper, and he lays it on my desk. And he goes, I want you to look at the finance section of the city agenda for the Common Council meeting coming up next Tuesday. So I look at it, and on the finance committee, it says there was $40,000 left in the Oak Hills budget. Need to transfer $40,000 from the Oak Hills budget back into the city general fund to pay for the former administrator's benefits. Okay. So I looked at Carl. Yeah, I looked at Carl. I said, oh, that's got to be a mistake, Carl. And Carl looked at me. Now, he's an 80-year-old man who's been around a while. Politics, his whole city politics. He looks at me, Vinny, he goes, I don't think this is a mistake, Vinny. I said, no, Carl. I said, I got an agreement with the mayor. He goes, you better go to that meeting. So I said, okay, I'll go to the meeting. So I try to call the mayor. All of a sudden, he's not picking up. Oh, he's not in, Vinny. He doesn't call me back. Am I worried? Yes, but not really. It's still in the back of my mind saying, I know they're not going to take this money from me. I go to this meeting on Tuesday. Finance committee guy gets up. His name is Jack Miller. He stands up. He says, okay, I was first on the agenda under finance. He says, okay, we need to transfer the $40,000 left in the Oak Hills budget. Now, meanwhile, I'm at this meeting, and there's all the commissioners, all the common council members that I know are against the Grillos, against my father, and they don't know me personally. They know who I am. I know who they are. I've never really met any of them, but they're all watching me, and I'm fighting, and so I get up, I raise my hand, and they all, oh, Vinny wants to say something. So I say, this wasn't the agreement I had. The agreement I had was I would do it for $1 a year. And still I'm thinking I'm going to get this money back for $1 a year. And, that was the agreement I had. And I put the mayor on the spot. I said, wasn't that the agreement, Mr. Mayor? And he couldn't even, he kind of looked down and says, well, yeah, but, Vinny, this is the finance director, and I have to go with what he says. And I have to go with his recommendation. So I said, okay. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is it. I'm done. So I'm standing there. It's quiet now. The room is quiet. And I'm more shocked than anything. And I didn't know what to say. I was like, I have no more money. I'm done. I finished. So I was ready to say, okay, okay, fine, whatever. But then I thought about it. I says, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. So I reached into my pocket and I had a bunch of keys because I had all the keys to the restaurant, to the maintenance building, we had rental properties there. We had tons of stuff, tons of keys. I was like a janitor. So I take the keys, I take my car key and my house key off. I put the keys on the podium. I say, you know what? Thank you for the job, but I'm handing in my resignation. I resign. And then all hell broke loose. It was like, oh, and I said, no, I'm done. And I turn around and I could hear a lot of commotion. And I turn around and I walk out the door and I leave. I didn't care. I said, you know what? I had nothing else to do. I was glad I did it. Thank God I did it. So anyway, I get out and the city hall, I go down the elevator, but it was an open atrium there. It's like a mall. You could see down there. So I'm leaving the building and somebody comes out. They're on the third floor. I'm on the first floor. And somebody screams, Vinnie, come back up, come back up, come back up. They want to talk to you. They want to talk to you. So I go back.
Boy.
I go back up the elevator. I go back in. And they give me the keys. They say, okay, forget it. We're going to keep the money in your account. You can keep going. I said, oh, okay. So I called, I can't believe I called their bluff. I almost did. But I called. So I get the keys, I leave. And apparently what had happened that the city leaders were worried, like, how are we going to get him out? Now Grillo's in there, and Grillo Jr.'s in there, the one thing we didn't want, but he's in there, he's the people like him. So I said, good, okay. So now, and believe me, this isn't my last thing with politics. So I start working the 1960s, and, I'm still 1996. And we're making a lot of changes, and especially with the tee times, and we're getting people to, now it's all fair. Not everybody's getting the same best tee times. Everything's honest, on the up and up. So now comes 1997, and it's still June 30th is my last day, and then I can start. Then I start a new session. Now, meanwhile, I'm lobbying for the city, telling the city, they're telling me there's no money, we can't make it here. The golf course is a money loser for us. So I said to them, listen, I'm going to meetings now, trying to convince the city, let us be our own business. We will, whatever money we take in, we spend. If you say we're losing money, let us control the money. We'll pay our bills, we'll do everything. So I'm lobbying for this right through 1996, 97. And finally, they agree to it, okay? In 1997, they said, look, it's going to take time, but by next year, you guys will have your own bank accounts and everything, and you'll be your own separate entity from the city. I said, wow, that's great. Okay, I got it. So now I'm thinking, I'm set now. I'm in here. So they have to write up a whole new lease. I start in now it's 1997. Or I'm sorry, 19. Yeah, it's June 30 or it's July 1st, 1997. My 1 year is up. They pay me the $6,000. Now it went up 3%, whatever it was. So I started a salary there. But I'm going to start with the golf authority is going to take over, next March. I'm sorry, next March. So what happens? This is. I got to tell you this. Why this is important. In '97, in April of '97, I was working the golf course, still under the $1 a year, and it was Good Friday in March of 1990. Easter was early, and Good Friday was falling on the Friday in March, and we had never opened up in March. It was always, it always went by the date, April 1st. Didn't matter what the weather was, but I had seen the weather was going to be really nice on Good Friday. So I said to the crew, I said, listen, we're opening up Friday. And I called the paper. Charlie Mitchell played golf. I said, Charlie, can you put something in the paper that, we'll be open on Good Friday? He says, yeah, sure. And sure enough, we put it in the paper. And back then, you had to pay for your tee times. And as soon as it hit the paper, people were flocking in. Those tee times sold for Good Friday immediately. I mean, we were sold out the day it went in the paper. Then by the next day, we were booked from morning till like 3 in the afternoon. So Good Friday comes. And the reason I bring this up, this is a very important part of my life there. I'm there, it's packed. And what happens is I'm in the pro shop, and I see my father and I are in the pro shop. He's selling the carts. I'm not giving lessons yet because it's early in the spring. But I see the mayor and the chief of police walking down with their golf clubs. And I know they don't have a tee time. So I go outside and I say, his name was Frank. I said, Frank, do you have a tee time? He goes, no, the chief of police now. Chief and I just want to play 9 holes. I said, Frank, it's 9:30. I said, we opened up at 6:30. I said, they're all over the place. I said, I can't get you on. He goes, and he was okay with it. And the chief of police said, oh, okay, no, we understand. I said to him, I said, look, just sit down on this bench. Or I said, putt for a little while. There was a bench there. It was nice. And Frank knew everybody there because he played golf, and all the golfers knew him. I said, you sit here, and, if something opens up, 2 people don't show up, put you out. He goes, okay, that's fine. I mean, no problem. And he was very nice. He was a great guy. This guy was wonderful. So he sat there. They putted for like 5 minutes. He sat there. Now, meanwhile, people would come down. They talked to him. What are you doing, Frank? Oh, I didn't make a tee time. I'm waiting to see if I can get out. People would come in the pro shop to me, say, Vinnie, do you want to put the mayor and the chief in front of us? You can. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And you don't know how many people came in and said, oh, you could do that, Vinnie. I don't. And I said, no, don't worry about it. He's fine. I said, I'm not going to. So meanwhile, he sat there, Leo, for 4 hours. They sat there for 4, but they were talking, 2 of them were talking. They were having, and every golfer that came by, and back then, where they were sitting, the first tee was there. People from the first tee had to pass by to go to the 7th hole. People passing by 7 would come off of 18 to pass. And the reason I'm telling you this, because they sat there and so many golfers saw him sitting there that they couldn't believe I didn't let the mayor and the chief of police play golf that day. I can't. I said, I'm not doing it. I stopped everybody from doing it. So now we come, and I tell you, this is why this was an important story. 1998 comes, and the lease is out. How? For the new authority. And in the lease, it states the executive director, who I was going to be, cannot have any family members working there, who was my father. And he still had 3 years left on his contract. So they got me. So now I say, oh my God. And again, this made big headlines in the paper. Grillo Senior or Grillo Junior has to leave because it's in the lease that no executive director can have a family member work there. So they got me. I said, oh my God, they got me again. And I'm disappointed. And I'm like, oh, those son of a guns. They did it to me. So I'm figuring, my father was so upset. My father goes, I could retire. I said, Dad, you're not going to retire. You got 3 years left. I said, I'll figure something out. But meanwhile, think about it, Leo. I got no experience. This is the only job I ever had. Okay? So it's November now. This is all over the paper. There's a group of golfers that play golf at the golf course that November. They went to a bar in East Norwalk. In the bar, these 4 golfers walk in. I don't know what's going on. This was later. There's a guy sitting at the bar who the 4 golfers knew very well. And there's a guy on the Common Council. His name is Peter. He had just got it voted in on the Common Council, didn't play golf, getting new into politics, but he was a smart guy. He was a lawyer, but knew about the golf course and knew what was going on there. So these 4 golfers walk in, and they knew the guy that was sitting with Peter, not Peter at all. So his name was Sonny, great guy. I went to school with Sonny. So they say, they all knew Sonny, and Sonny goes, "Oh, this is Peter. He's on the Common Council. He's going to be the president. He just got voted in. It was the election in November." And they start talking, and one of these golfers say to him, "Hey, Peter, why aren't they so against Vinnie Grillo Jr. getting that job?" Now, here's a guy I've never met in my life, and he says to them, "I'm going to tell you why, because they don't like the way they think Vinnie Grillo Sr. kissed his rear end, and they think Vinnie Grillo Jr. is kissing the mayor's rear end." And that's what he said to them. So they were taken back about that, and they say, "Whoa, wait a second. Let me tell you a story about that." And they told him the story. They said, "Listen, we played opening day this year, 8 months ago, and he let the mayor and the chief of police sit there and wouldn't let him out." And this guy was shocked that they were saying this to him. So he goes, "What?" He goes, "Say that." So this guy, Peter, went back to the board, and he told the board, the commissioner, the councilman, he says, "Look, we got this all wrong about Grillo. He didn't kiss the mayor's ass." He says, and he told him the story. He says, "Look, there's many witnesses that saw him not let the mayor and the chief of police play golf." So they rewrote the lease. They couldn't but what they did is they put in the lease, I was the operations manager, and they hired an executive director for like $5,000 a year, which is like a nothing job. So now I'm the operations manager, and my father's and this other guy's the executive director. So now I get the job back, and I get paid, and everything's good. Okay, for a while. So we're moving along, and now my father retires in 2000, and I move right in. Now I'm the pro and the manager. Okay, I'm the operations manager, the pro. My father retires. Everything's fine, but they're not giving me a 10-year contract. 3 years. Okay, you get a 3-year contract. I said, "Fine, I'm doing it." So I go 3 years and golf is good at this point. Tiger Woods is doing well. We're busy. We're making money. So now the golf world is busy. It's 2002, 3, 4, 5. In 2005, we built a restaurant. The restaurant they had there was an old building. They tore it down. They built a beautiful restaurant, and we had to pay for it, and the city set it up where we'd only pay the payments, the interest only for the first 3 years, and then by 2000 I'd say 10 or 11, principal and interest would kick in. But we were doing fine. We could make it, no problem. We had the money. Golf was busy. But then all of a sudden, 2008 comes. And, recession hits. Golf goes way down. Okay?
Bad year for everybody.
Oh, yeah. You remember that. 2008, 9, 10. And the numbers are getting worse and worse and worse. So I got one more year on my contract. It's 2011. And that was a really bad, rainy season. 2011, there was like 80 days of measurable rain. There was a hurricane in August and a snowstorm in October. It was a bad year. And this was the first.
Hold on, Vinny. That's a good point. A lot of people don't understand that. They all want your money when everything's flowing right. But nobody wants to support you when all of a sudden it's raining and the economy's down.
And if you look at the records, 2011 was the worst year on record in the Northeast for rainfall.
Right.
So I could see now the handwriting's on the wall. All of a sudden it's rumbling. Oh, he's not doing a good job. And, I've been there 15 years running the place, 13 years as the pro, from 98 to 2000 as the pro manager. No problems, nothing. But now I can see they're not going to renew my contract. They want me out. And there's still some bad blood between so they were making it very hard, putting new people on the golf commission that would make it hard for me. They wanted me to get out. And I said, "You know what?" I said to my wife, "I got to get out, Sal. I can't do this anymore. This isn't fun anymore." I said, it's bad. So she was like, "Oh, she was my best support. She said, "You got to go, Vinny. Don't get sick over this." I said, "I got it, Sal. I can't." So I resigned. Okay. I get out. I resign. I leave. Now I'm 50 years old. I got no college education. I worked at one golf course for 42 years. Okay. What am I going to do? I'm really stuck. I'm really in a bind here. I don't have much money. I have to sell. So I said to my wife, I said, I got to get out of town. I don't even want to stay in town. I said, I'm done here. Now, we were very familiar with Lake Worth, Florida, because my father had bought a house here back in 1986. He bought a house in Lake Worth, Florida. So we've been coming down here for many, many, many years.
Right.
So I knew the area very well. And I said to my wife, let's move to Florida. Let's go. So she said, yeah, we got to go. And meanwhile, my wife was born there. And I was there I lived there since 1970 for 40 years. And I had to pack up and leave, all my friends and everything. So I left. I had to go. I had to get out of there. So we get down to Lake Worth, Florida. I sell my house. I got, and I was lucky. I had a little equity in my house. I had about $200,000 equity in my house. And I had $200,000 in my 401k. And that's all the money. That's all I had. And I'm 50 and I got nothing else. And I had one young son who was only in 8th grade. I had 2 kids I put through college, but I have one son left.
Good job, Vinnie. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, I was smart with getting them through college, and they weren't going to be like me. They were going to college. So
right.
I still have one kid left. So we get down to Florida, and I'm here in 2012. I sold my house in 12. I moved here in 13. And prices in Florida were still reasonable. So we saw a house, we bought it. It was $275,000. I only had 200. So and I couldn't even get a $75,000 mortgage. It wasn't working. So I had to pull $75,000 out of my IRA, which I knew was going to be a big mistake. So now my IRA drops from 200 to 125, and I know I got to pay taxes on it. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be easy, but I got to so I do it. I buy the house. I know I got to pay taxes. Tax comes in. I go, $34,000 taxes. I got to take that out of the IRA. I'm under $100,000 in my IRA. And what do I have? I got a house. Big deal. And you got to live. So I get down here and I get a call from Barry McLaughlin. He was a pro at Barry was a great guy. He lived in Norwalk. He knew what was going on at Oak Hills. And he called me up. He said, hey, Vinnie, I see you moving to Palm Beach. Because I'm good friends with Craig Watson. He works for the First Tee. Would you like to I could call him up, see if he can get you a job there. I said, Barry, that would be great. Anything. I said, look, I got nothing. I got no job. I need a job. He said, I'll call him. And sure enough, I knew Craig. He was our sales rep for the Ashworth years ago. I get in touch with Craig, and he said, Vinnie, I'll give you a job here. And it was like 20 hours a week, $500 I was making about $500 a week. I'm not getting rich, that's for sure, but it's something. I got something. I'm happy. At least I'm working a little bit. I need more, but I gotta go. So I gotta do something. I take the job, and I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm teaching the underprivileged kids after school programs on Saturdays. They got a beautiful facility there. I said to my wife, this is nice, but it's part-time, not enough to really get going. And meanwhile, I got a 15-year-old son who goes to work at the beach. There's a busy restaurant. He's bussing tables, and I need his money to survive. I mean,
right.
My son is 15, and he's making more than I am, and he's happy. Dad, look, I want to help out. And I said, Henry, I'm keeping track. Don't worry. He goes, no, don't. I'm not worried about it, Dad. He goes, I know what's going on with your life. So I get this job there, and when I get to the First Tee, they give me a job assignment in Pahokee, Belle Glade, out in that area, way west. So I go out with this young guy. His name was John Gans. Nice kid, and it was like a summer program now. So it was in the summer, hot, but we have to do this program out there. And I pick him up and I drive him out there. It's like a 45-minute ride back and forth. So we're doing it for about 3 weeks. And he knows my whole life story. And I'm trying to, he's a young kid. He's only 25. And I said to him, John, just move around, work for more people. He had a college education. I said, that's good, John. I said, you're not going to be in the position I'm in. He goes, oh, he felt bad for me. Dad, listen, don't worry about it. I put myself in this dumb position, but I get to, I get to know him pretty well. And it ends. The summer ends. I said, thanks. He said, thank you, Vinnie. I said, oh, thank you, John. It was great knowing you. We'll stay friends. We'll stay connected. So now it's November. It's right around Thanksgiving. Just a couple of days before Thanksgiving, I'm in the Walmart shopping center, and I get a call from John. It's John. He's on the phone. I say, John, pick up. I see the caller ID. Hey, John, what's going on? He goes, hey, Vinnie, I just got a job in Jupiter. There's this guy named Sonny Smith. He owns 2 golf courses. He goes, I'm taking the job in Jupiter. But he asked me, do I know anybody that would be interested in working at the Lake Worth golf course? I said, I thought of you. Were you interested? I said, definitely. I would, definitely pass my name. I would love to, John. I need more work. He said, okay. He says, I'll connect. Sure enough, he calls me. Sonny calls me. His secretary calls me right after Thanksgiving, a few days after Thanksgiving. She says, okay, Sonny would like to meet you at his golf course in Jupiter on Friday the 13th. I said, ooh. I said, okay. He says, yeah, he'll meet you here at 11 o'clock. Be here. I said, okay, I'll be there. No problem. So now
No, Vinny, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
So up till now, this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a hardworking guy.
Yeah.
Doing anything to provide for his family.
Mm-hmm.
He's great at building relationships with key players, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you figured out a way to get the job done, but you're proud enough. You're not going to let people kick you around either, and I respect that too. That's pretty impressive.
Exactly. You got it, Leo. You understand it. Okay.
But anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So this gets interesting. So I get up to his golf course, and keep in mind, this is the first interview I'm going on. I'm 50 years old. Okay. It's really the first interview. So I get there a little early. I'm walking around the place. I meet the woman, Sherry, who's his secretary. She says, oh, Sonny's running a little bit late. He'll be here though, but just, walk around, see the facility. This was the Jupiter facility. I'm going to work at the Lake Worth golf course. So I'm walking around and I hear a guy say, Vinnie. And I turn around and this guy named Tony Capitelli. And he's from Stanford and he works for my brother at Sterling Farms. At this point, my brother was the executive director at Sterling Farms in Stamford, Connecticut. Okay? So he's at Stanford. I was at Oak Hills. And at one point, my father was teaching at Westport at Longshore. So we had the golf courses covered. You went to one of those golf courses. You saw Grillo there teaching at Westport, Grillo here, executive director at Sterling Farms, and Grillo at Oak Hills. But that all ended when I had left. So he sees me. He says, what are you here for? I says, I'm here for a job. He goes, to work here? I says, no, to work in Lake Worth. Sonny's got another golf. He goes, I know who Sonny is. I know Sonny well. I said, oh, well, he goes, I'm going to see Sonny. So he goes, oh, good luck. I hope you get the job. I said, well, thanks, Tony. I need it. So Sonny comes in. I didn't even know who he was, but Sherry goes, oh, he's here, Vinny. He'll come see you. He goes, his office is back over. So I go through the hallway. I knock on the door. Come in. So I walk in the door. He stands up. He's a big guy, 6'4". He looks at me and he goes, Vinny, you got the job. That's all he says to me. And I look at him. I says, are you pulling my leg? He says, no. He said, you got the job. I said, okay. I said, how did I get this job? He goes, Tony talked to me. He got my ear over there before I met you. He told me all about you, your father, your brother. You've been in the golf business. You know the golf business. He goes, I've been going through people there left and right. I want you to have this guy. I want you to run my golf course. Okay. I said, okay, Sonny, I'll take the job. He says, not only do I want, now listen, I just met this guy 2 minutes.
Right.
He goes, not only do I want you to have this job, he goes, I want you to buy my golf course. I want to sell you my golf course. I says, okay. Meanwhile, I'm saying to myself, this guy's crazy. I said, I got no money. He doesn't know me really, but he wants me to buy. Yeah, I'm going along with him. Maybe. Yeah, you and your brother, I think would be great. I said, okay, no problem, son. So he goes, listen, I'm going to meet you up there next week, next Tuesday. He goes, I want to tell you something, though. I'm embarrassed to say this, but he goes, I haven't been there in 7 months. He goes, I have no idea what's going on. But he goes, I'll meet you there. I said, I'll meet you there next Tuesday. I said, okay, Sonny, I'll meet you there. So obviously, I go to this golf course. I want to check it out. And boy, it's in horrible shape. Nobody's worked, weeds, dirt, terrible. It's a horrible place. But so I go up there, say, okay, this is my new job. He gets there, Sonny gets there. He goes, Vinnie, like I said, get rid of anybody you want. Do whatever you need to do. He says, here's the position. It was 20 hours a week, which was okay. He was paying me $600. So I was making five. I said, Sonny, I got to keep the first tee job. I can't. He says, no, we'll work around your schedule. And it worked out well because the first tee was after school now and Saturdays. And he said, you can work Sundays instead of Saturdays. So he worked it out in my schedule. So I'm making a little money with the first tee. I'm making money with him. I said, okay, I got the job. I'm in. I take the job. He says, okay, every Tuesday, I will meet you here and we will just go over. He said, I'll come up here now. Because I didn't like to come up here, but I'll come up here. I said, okay. And every Tuesday he'd come in and we talk. And every Tuesday he'd come in and he says, I want you to buy this golf course. I want you to buy this. I said, okay, Sonny. And I'm yesing him to death. Yeah. And he'd come in the next Tuesday. I'll make it work for you, Vinnie. I'll make it work for you. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how he's going to make it. And at the time, he wanted $800,000 for the golf course, which was pretty reasonable, I thought. But $800,000, it's a losing golf course, and it's in horrible shape. So he comes in, and it's going. Now it's the wintertime. It's February. Sure enough, he comes in. Vinnie, you got to buy my golf course. And I'm like, yeah, Sonny, I'll one day we'll. But meanwhile, it's not, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, he's going to sell this eventually. I'm going to be out of this job, but I can't. I don't have the. I don't know what he wants. So I'm saying, okay. So now it's a Sunday morning in February, and I get a call. My cell phone rings, and it's a friend of mine from Norwalk. His name was Nick Paisano, great guy. I grew up with Nick. I went to high school with him. Played a lot of golf with Nick. He was devastated that I had to leave Oak Hills. So he calls me and he says, Vinnie, I'm in Florida. Where are you? Now, Florida's a big state. I said, I'm in Lake Worth. And he says, I'm in Coral Springs. I said, geez, Nick. I said, that's close. I said, I think you're 25 minutes away. He goes, I'm going to come down and see you right now. I said, come on over. So sure enough, a half hour, he walks in the door and he goes, wow, where'd you find this place? And it was a cool building. It was an A-frame clubhouse. It was really neat. It was set up where the cashier would make the food. Everything was right there together. It was really a beautiful little setup, beautiful clubhouse. So I told him, I said, through the first tee, I got the job, blah, blah, blah. He goes, wow. He goes, this is really nice. I said, yeah, the guy's trying to sell it. He goes, really? How much? I said, $800,000. He goes, oh, wow. He goes, give me a key. I want to take a look. So I give him a card. He goes out for about an hour, comes in. He goes, let's buy it. I said, Nick, how are we going to buy it? He goes, you were telling me the guy wants you to buy it. He's going to make it work for you. Let's talk to him, see what he wants. So I said, so I'm thinking now, wow, do I buy it? Do I not buy it? Can I buy it? What does he want? So I said, all right, let me feel him out, Nick. I'll feel him out. So Nick was going through a divorce, and he wanted to get out of Norwalk. He wanted to get to Florida. And I was here already as a friend. So I said, okay, I'll talk to him. So he comes, sure enough, Tuesday comes. I said, Sonny, let's talk. What do you want? He goes, what can you give me? And Nick and I had already discussed it. I said, Nick, I got about $90,000 left in my IRA. I said, I don't have a lot. And Nick goes, well, I'm selling my house and I got about $100,000. I said, well, you think he'll take, if we put down $50,000 each, he'll take it. So I said, I mean, that's all I could afford. I said, Nick, I got 90, I got to give him 50. I got to pay taxes on it. I got nothing. He says, ask him. So I said to him, I said, Sonny, here's the deal. if we can give you 50,000 each, 100,000, would you hold the note? Would you hold the note for $700,000? He says, I'll do that. That'll work. He says, I'll do it. I want to do it. Let's do it. I said, okay. So he gets everything set up. So we're going over the numbers. And I said, look, Sonny, I said, there's only one problem. I said, we can get liability insurance, we can get workers' compensation insurance, but the hurricane insurance is $34,000. We can't. He says, Vinnie, don't worry about the hurricane insurance. He says, you don't have to have that. You have to have liability, workers' comp. But he says, I'll let you take it over. He says, I went through 3 hurricanes with this place. You know, a lot of trees come down, but the building stays. Building never had damage. He goes, just clean it up and keep going. I said, okay, we'll do it. So sure enough, we end up closing on the property on May 30th, 2014. Okay, so now I own a golf course with my friend, the two of us, and he's the outside guy, and I'm the inside guy. And I said to Nick, and he, you know, in my mind, greenskeeper. Oh my God, the greenskeeper. We need a greenskeeper. Nick goes, I'm going to be the greenskeeper. And this guy's an electrician. This guy's an electrician by trade. He says, I'm going to be the greenskeeper. I said, okay. I said, that's fine. I said, Nick, I said, did you look at that pump house? I said, did you look at those pumps? And he goes, Vinnie, I was in the Navy. He goes, I was on a ship. My job was to fix the pumps on a ship. He says, those are teeny weeny pumps compared to what those pumps are big, but to him, they were tiny on a ship. He goes, and they were nothing to him. He knew pumps. He pulled those pumps out. He rebuilt them, put them back in. The irrigation system was okay. And so I said, Nick, you're the outside guy. I'm the inside guy. So he went online, how to kill this grass, how to treat this grass, how to do this. And there was a golf course right next to us, the Fountains. And we called up the greenskeeper there, and he came over. His name was Shannon. He helped us out. He gave us advice, and we started our journey here. So we get there, and the first year we're there, our goal was, now when he sold us the property at the closing, he said, look, you're getting this at rock bottom price. He says, you see the numbers. He was losing $100,000 a year, and he says, you can't build on it. And we went with that. Okay, you can't build on it. 100,000, he's losing 100,000. He goes, because if you build on it, I certainly would have built on it. And
right.
He says, I would have built. I said, sure. In our mind, yeah, you can't build. We understand something. So we closed on the property. And the first year, we make $30,000 each. So thank God I'm still working at the first tee a little bit, making a little money there. I'm making more. I was making more 20 hours a week with Sonny than I was with, working there 60, 70 hours a week. And we keep putting money back into the golf course. We want to improve it. And we are getting better, and play is picking up. So the second year we're there, we make about 45,000. And we're getting a little better. We're getting more play. And other golf courses are closing. Cypress Creek is closing. They're selling. Villa Del Rey, Ocean Breeze. They're selling out to developers. But meanwhile, it's good because as they're closing, more people are moving to Florida. There's less golf courses. We're busy. So we keep moving on. Year 3 comes. We make about 50, 55. And it's enough to pay the bills, barely. And we're making about 50,000, 55. Not a lot, but in our mind, we got to keep building. We got to keep it better. So we're moving along, and year 4 comes. And we're busier, making a little more money. All of a sudden, we get a call from a national developer comes in and says, you're interested in selling the land. And we said, well, can you build on it? And he says, well, we researched, we think we can. And meanwhile, we're thinking to ourselves, well, maybe they can, maybe they can't. So this national big developer, builds all over the country, says, well, are you interested? I said, yeah, well, we're interested. what's the price? He said, well, we'll give you a price in a few months or a few weeks. Give us a few weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks. I said, okay. So meanwhile, between this time, my partner and I, we go down to the county records and we look up our property and we see it's zoned residential. And there's it doesn't see any restrictions like it's deeded, recreation or golf course.
Right.
There's nothing in there that states it. So we said, gee, maybe we can't build on this. Maybe we're sitting on something better than we think. So we're talking, Nick and I, and we're saying like, we don't want 2 million. If for 2 million, we'd rather sit on, keep it, and try to build it up. But we had a number in our mind. If we could get to like 3.5 million, maybe we would sell it. So they come back to us in 4 weeks and they say, here's the number. And they put it down. It was 4.1 million. So I said, ooh. So we didn't get excited. We said, well, let us think about it. We'll he said, yeah, no, take your time. That's let us know what you think. And I said, okay. So they walk out the door and he and I are jumping through the roof there saying, oh my God, I can't believe this. They said a 50,000 investment, we're moving up here. So meanwhile, they leave, and a few weeks later, we get another offer. So people are coming in now. They want. So we don't tell them that. We just say, look, there's multiple people interested in this property. What? And we're not marketing it. We're just putting it out there. So he says. So another guy comes in. Another guy, because we got 4 or 5 people now that want it. Okay. So he said, well, make your offer. So these offers start coming in. 4, 5, 7, 9. So we're like, this can't be. Something's not right. Something can't be right. So,
hopefully you're thanking your grandmother at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Thanking the city for letting me go. So I guess. So we finally say to them, look, if we had so many, we had like 6 of them. To give us your best and final, this is it. And they come in, and the best offer comes in at 15.5 million. So we say, okay, we're done. We say, this is it. So now with this contract, it's stipulated that we would get no money until all permits were approved by the county, which we were okay with, okay? Because we were sitting on it. We said, we're okay with this. And by this time, we were making more money, more courses were closing, we could survive. So we start the process. We sign the contract, we go into it. Everything's fine. But there's some delays. They have to, and at this time, it's I can tell you that it was 2018. And Florida hadn't taken off. It was busy, but they were building a lot. And this company that bought us was called Manamy, a Canadian builder. They had bought a piece of property on Southern Boulevard, close to us. And they were building like 80 houses, and they weren't selling too well. But it was right on Southern Boulevard. So they were delaying it a little bit. We could see they were stalling a little bit. But we were okay with it. And so finally, a year go by, and they had people working on it, taking tests and stuff like that. So 2 years, and they said it would take 14 to 19 months. So meanwhile, we're into 2 years, and we still don't have any money for it. So now COVID hits. 2020, COVID hits, and like the meetings have to stop, and we had to do a lot of meetings with the residents there. Residents found out we were selling to build on it. They were very upset, thinking we couldn't. They were told that it has to stay a golf course, like when we bought it, it has to stay a golf course. So 2020 comes, and we couldn't do any, we couldn't meet with the people of the community, so it kind of stalls. But as you know, COVID boomed the golf business. I mean, all of a sudden, we went from 100 people a day to 250 people a day playing. So we're making money. Yeah, we're making money, lots of money, more money than I ever made up in Connecticut. I was like, even if it didn't sell, we're still doing pretty well, and we're enjoying it. But at this point, my partner wants out. He does. I'm in the golf business my whole life. He likes it, and he's good at it. He's a greenskeeper now, and he got the greens in good shape. He got the place in good shape. But he wants to get out, and I don't blame him, and I did too. But I said, Nick, so it gets by. So finally, in 21, we get all county approvals. We get all the approvals, and what happens is we're ready to close, and the one HOA, there's 8 HOAs. One HOA puts a lawsuit on it, and it brings it to a complete stop. Okay, the builder says we can't do anything until we resolve this lawsuit. So we said, okay, we understand. So we're sitting there with our hands tied, and we can't do anything. We're sitting on it, but we got a good business now. We're making money. We're doing fine. I could easily survive now. I mean, there's no issues. Financially, I'm in good shape. So we go through it. It takes 2 years to get through this lawsuit. Meanwhile, while I'm going through this lawsuit, there's a golf course across the street called Poinciana, and it's in horrible condition, just like what I bought this golf course. And they come over, a lot of their people were playing, and they come over to me, and they say, look, when you sell this, would you be interested in going to my golf course, to our golf course across the street? And I was like, and I'm yesing them to death, like, yeah, maybe, but I didn't really want it. I was like, I didn't need to. But they came over every week. Please, 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 please. So I called my brother, and it was always our dream. My brother and I always wanted to own a golf course. I said, Paul, you got to come down here. This might be a good opportunity for us. So I tell him, I said, look, I'm closing. I got the money now. I said, maybe we can work a deal out with these people. They own the property. We would just lease the golf course. So I said, Paul, come on down. I wanted him to buy the golf course with me here. He backed out. I said, this is your opportunity. So he comes down. He says, now he's at Sterling Farms for 25 years. They loved him. And they were ready to keep him there forever. So I said, Paul, you want to do it? Make it. He says, I want to do it. Let's do it. So I said to them, okay, we'll take over. We'll lease this piece of property we have a long lease there. We have a 20-year lease. So we do it. And I give them, I have the money now we fix up the greens. We fix up everything. We make it beautiful. Meanwhile, I'm telling all my people when I close, I'm sending them to both places now. We're so busy, I'm putting the overflow across the street to my brother's place and my place. So we got it going. It was wonderful. Now I got 2 golf courses. He's doing fantastic. And finally we get a court decision. We win it. We win the court decision. There's nothing that the HOAs or the people that live there can do. It's our property. Judge says, look, there was a piece of paper that stated no buildings could be built on the golf course. However, it was in an office at the HOA. They never recorded it with the county. And the judge says, look, you didn't record it with the county. There's no record of it. I'm sorry. Judgment for the golf course. And we win. And we end up closing on November 30th of 23 after 9.5 years there. Right to the day we closed on it. We got our money. And now I'm over at Poinciana with my brother, enjoying life. And that's how it went, Leo. It was a road, a journey, politics at its worst, trying to get even with me. But I ended up, and I couldn't be, obviously I couldn't be happier.
What a great story. What a great story, man.
I'll never forget, Leo. It was when I left Oak Hills, Norwalk, I came down here. It was Christmas Eve, went to church, midnight mass. I looked at that altar. I said to the Lord, I said, I'm in your hands. Take care of me, please. I got nothing. I need help. And you know what? It sure did. My wife pulled me through this like you can't believe. It was a great, it worked out fantastic. Obviously, it worked out fantastic. And it worked out great for my brother. He's down here now with me. And we always wanted a golf course and we got it.
Beautiful. That's a great story. Great story.
You know, from meeting the right people to this guy Sonny just saying, "You got the." My first interview, shook my hand and says, "You got the job," and I got the job.
And people that play or work at these hotshot country clubs, they might not be able to appreciate the story, but I
Right,
appreciate the story. There's a lot of
right.
people out there that appreciate the story.
Yeah, you have to live it. And I remember when I left Oak Hills, and it was happening to not me. It was a bunch of pros in the area that were, and one guy, the guy at Shorehaven Dale, he was a great guy. He had same thing happened to him a year before it happened to me, and he called me up. He said, "Vinny, I know what you're going through." He says, "I went through it last year." He says, "And you know what? The longer you're at a golf course, the more enemies you make." I says, you're right, Dale." And that's what happened. You know, you make those few enemies. You know, we were there 42 years, my father and I. It was a long time,
Yeah,
but our time had come, and we had to part.
yeah, you're right because it only takes a couple of people to get you out the door too.
Oh,
You know.
yeah, yeah. You know, it just takes two of them to start it up, and that's the story. But you know, in the end, it worked out okay,
And
obviously. And
that's the other thing too. Most golf professionals are very good people,
right,
people.
right,
So, but even them, even golf pros, sooner or later, you can't keep
right.
everybody happy. You know.
No, you can't. It's impossible. It's impossible. That's why it worked out. I'm
What
happy
a great story.
for my brother, my family. You know, we're living a nice life now, and we love Florida. My partner went back to Connecticut, and I stayed down here. I got
That's
grandkids
a
now. See them, so it worked out nice.
great story.
Okay, so there you
So,
go, Leo.
does Poinciana they have a driving range there?
No, they don't. They. Let me tell you, we took over that golf course. It was a dump. But I said to my brother, "Don't worry about it. We know how to do it." And we have a good superintendent over there. But we rebuilt the greens. We put champion greens in. We rebuilt the tee. It's in beautiful shape. And you know what?
Nice.
I know the greenskeeper or the superintendents. They're like God in the country clubs, but it's not as hard as I thought it was. Okay, I'm going to tell you that much. I mean, I know the
Right,
superintendent goes, "Oh, this guy's an idiot," but you know what? I can. It's okay. It's not that hard. It's grass, fertilized,
right.
water. You can make it grow. You can make it nice.
So, if you had to pass on one lesson to a 21-year-old starting out in the golf business, what would you tell him or
I
her?
would definitely tell them, get education, move around jobs. Don't stay in one place too long. Move. You know, get more experience at other clubs. You know, I made that mistake. It worked out for me. It's not going to work out all the time like this. So, you know, just keep moving up the ladder. Go to different jobs. Keep trying to get more experience. The more experience you get, the better shot you have.
Yeah, that was a great story, Vinny. You made my day listening to that story. That
Okay.
was excellent.
All right. Well, you got the story, Leo. And that's where I am now. I'm
And
63.
hopefully our paths will cross one day down there in Lake
Yeah.
Worth, and we'll
You ever
talk.
you'll get to Lake Worth one day. You're gonna ever visit? I know you're in Thailand now.
Thailand's pretty nice. That was my big break. Thailand's a great place.
Okay. Well, if you ever get back to Florida, stop in.
All right, Vinny, have a good day, and thanks for coming
Okay.
on.
Thanks, Leo.
All right, bye bye.